Thanks, Kira. Yes, I mean, really, as soon as Kira told me about that idea, I was like, yes, that sounds like the most us thing we could possibly do. Because it's got a little bit of fun and a little bit of uniqueness. And yet, still, here we are serving. Serving Sunday, any month with 5 Sundays, we take that 5th Sunday, and instead of doing a church service, we do a project to serve others here, like usually right here on site, and sometimes we go off different places and do little projects in our community. But that's going to be really exciting. We will have coffee going the whole time, so you will have, short chocolate fueled by coffee. It'll just be a morning of beans. So anyway, please join us for that. It will be a great time. And I want to thank you for being here. My name is Cullen. I'm the pastor here at Northern Light, especially if it's your first time here. You are always welcome here. Here at Northern Light, our mission is that we are inviting ordinary people to feel and show the extraordinary love of Jesus. And we do that in a lot of different ways. We do it in the ways that we do music, in the ways we sing together, in the ways that we do our teaching, and in the ways that we serve. It shows up in lots of different ways, and I hope that you can experience a little bit of that this morning and more in the future in the ways that we do everything. The one last thing that I want to mention in terms of upcoming events is that this coming week, we are going to be serving alongside a community organization known as Family Promise. What they do is they host families experiencing homelessness in church buildings in this community so that they have a place to be. It's really the only homeless organization for families in Anoka County. And so the way it works is that churches with enough space will clear out their schedule, and they'll actually set up bedrooms and stuff where they've got all their Sunday school classrooms. Problem is, if you look around, you have seen all of Northern Light Church. Like that's, and we love that about our space and about who we are. But what that means is we actually have partnered with another small church that has space, and we give them our hands and feet for the day to prepare meals and to give activities to these families with kids so they have something to do. Now, the thing about this is there's only a few of us, and it's a big job. And so we would like to open up the tent for that. And the problem is you need to get a training in first before you can actually volunteer. So we want to put together a training, and we want to get some of you on board for a training who haven't gotten trained yet. So I've invited Jamie to come and say a couple words about her experiences in serving alongside Family Promise. Let's give Jamie a warm welcome.
So Family of Promise is a really cool organization. It's a great way to help out with the homeless communities, community in our immediate community. I've never experienced homelessness myself. Oh gosh, darn it. But I do like to cook and I like to eat. And so I figured this was a really easy way for me to give back to these families that are experiencing homelessness. They can't cook their food. They don't normally sit down for a home-cooked meal, So the first time we went, it was me and my husband and my 2 kids, and we went, and a couple other people came and helped, and it was, a little awkward being vulnerable and being like, here, I'm going to serve you food. And we all know that there's this big elephant in the room, like that they don't have a permanent home. But when we sat down and we started eating, we were just people having a meal. My kids were just playing, watching the babies, playing with the kids, riding skateboards, and it was, skateboards. It was a pretty cool night. And then the second time we did it, it was even better. It was like, I was just there to just partake in a meal with these people. Just a little bit of normalcy in their busy, crazy life. They're trying to figure out what the next step is for them and trying to work towards having a permanent residence. And if I can help out in one small little way and just make something feel a little bit normal, then yeah, I'll do it. And you should too.
Thank you, Jamie. So, we aren't asking you to sign away your life. We're just asking you to sign up on a piece of paper to let us know you'd be interested in going through a training. So there are some orange clipboards going around where you can throw down your name and contact info so that we can get a hold of you, so that we can pick a training time that'll be here at Northern Light that will have the best availability for the most number of people, so we can optimize the opportunity. So that's the plan. And we've already had like 14 or 15 people from Northern Light who are trained in. And when the organizers came to see our group, they said, there are churches 10 times your size that have half or fewer people who come for these trainings. This is just the heartbeat of Northern Light Church. We care for people because they are known and loved and valued by God. And so we want to make sure they hear the same thing from us. So that's what we're doing. And we're excited about the next opportunity. The next opportunity to serve Family Promise is in November, so it's just around the corner. So it's coming soon. We'll have the training happen sometime in the next month and a half, and so keep your eyes peeled and your ears open for that next opportunity. And with that, I would like to invite our scripture reader forward for this morning.
They talk about the women's retreat, and Cullen mentioned we enjoy ourselves, we enjoy our company, taking it out. That women's retreat sounds like nothing but a big party to me. Guys, we're going to have to put a retreat together to try to, catch up to them. Our reading this morning is from Psalm 8, and it's verse 3 through 9. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon, the stars, which you have set in place, what is mankind that you are mindful of them? Human beings that you care for them. You have made them a little lower than the angels and crowned them with glory and honor. You made them rulers over the works of your hands. You put everything under their feet. All flocks and herds and all the animals and of the wild, the birds in the sky and the fish in the sea, all that swim the paths of the seas. Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth.
Thanks, Rick. Well, I am excited to be starting a new 3-part series with you this morning. This series is called How to Be, Living Right in a World Gone Wrong. And I know that we all experience the wrongness of the world, probably on a daily basis. When you flip on the news, maybe when you check your bank account statement, you experience this world as being a little off balance and out of place. We've got relationships that are broken, and frustrations at work, and all over the place. And so the question that we're going to come to the next 3 weeks is, what are the practices that we can put into our lives that not only allow us to cope through that rough stuff, wherever you find it, but actually allow you to thrive and even find God there in the midst of that struggle. So that's what we're going to be doing. I'm really excited about that. Next week is one of my favorite things to talk about in the whole world. We're going to talk about doubt, how to doubt, how to ask questions about who God is and what is going on in this world. People who struggle with having faith at all are my favorite people. I have better conversations with those folks than the people that have been Christians since the day they were born. So, because they don't have all the answers, and that means they're actually right, because none of us do. We're all figuring this out. So we're going to talk about how to doubt next week. And today we're going to talk about how to wonder. How to wonder is an interesting phrase. It sounds an awful lot like how to ask big questions, like how to go, I wonder. Or how to investigate a mystery. And many of humanity's greatest discoveries came about because people just kept saying to themselves, I wonder what would happen if, like explorers, right? Driven by their wondering. Artists driven by wonder. And even scientists driven by wonder. You may not know the name Alexander Fleming. If you had to take many biology classes, then you probably do know the name, because in 1928, his wondering led him to discover penicillin. But the raw product that he presented in his initial demonstration, it couldn't be mass produced. And so scientists went on a search for the right ingredients to make penicillin widely available to cure disease all over the world. And they looked everywhere, underneath every lunch counter, in basement cellars, and they'd ask, I wonder if this will work. I wonder if this will work. Until finally, they found the exact strain of penicillin they needed on a moldy piece of cantaloupe in a market in Peoria, Illinois. That's it. It is, and there's actually like a monument to it in the Peoria Historical Society. Yeah, it's a real thing. That's a real thing. Wonder leads us to amazing, surprising places. We count on scientists to wonder. We count on them to wonder, to push the bounds of what is known, to let their curiosity drive them to new discoveries. But for many of us, the art of wonder gets lost somewhere along the way. The other day, I asked my 4 children what they wonder about. And 2 of them are 6 and 7. And they had this endless stream of wonderings about dinosaurs and God and cavemen and belly buttons. But my 9 and 11-year-olds, they were a little hard-pressed to think of anything that they wondered about. It's interesting. But what is wonder, really? In one sense, it's that act of leaning into the unknown with curiosity, right? Asking those questions. But then there's this other, broader sense of wonder. It's the wonder you see in a child's eyes on Christmas morning. It's the wonder I saw yesterday when I took my daughter to the Renaissance Festival and we were watching the fire show. People juggling and jumping and eating and, breathing fire. And the eyes get big, right? Yeah. All right. Yes, exactly. That makes me wonder what we got going on here. All right. It's the wonder you experience when you come around a bend on a mountain road and just see the entire world scattered at your feet, right? There's the wonder you feel when you hold a newborn baby. It's hard to hold these two ideas of wonder together, the asking questions and the experience of awe and amazement in one idea. But I'm going to try. So here's my working definition of wonder. All right, here it is. Wonder is an open, joyful posture toward the vast unknown. An open, joyful posture toward the vast unknown. So the unknown often fills us with fear. That's the most common source of fear, is when we just don't know what's going to happen. And so wonder is when we turn that fear on its head and just open ourselves up and say, what does this unknown have for me today? And whenever we face down our curiosity and rub our hands together excitedly, that's wonder. That's wonder. Anytime we embrace a new challenge with giddy expectation, that's wonder. It's an open, joyful posture toward the vast unknown. And of course, the best example of this is the miracle of childbirth. This fascination that happens when we realize we are holding the limitless possibility of a human life in our own hands, right? Cradled in our arms. And so this week I asked my Facebook friends to describe the wonder of holding their new baby for the first time. And for those who really experience the wonder of that moment, they express this openness and joy of that moment, as well as some fear at this great big unknown that rests neatly in their folded arms. So here are some of the words that moms used to describe that moment of wonder. They said it was chaotic, overwhelming, bliss, amazement. One mom said, it's as close to heaven as I'll be till I get there. They used the word indescribable to describe the feeling they had, right, that's exactly it, right? It's surreal. It's a sense of overwhelming peace, a feeling of awe, that it was breathtaking, excited, and amazed. And I would say for many of you moms in the room, it's probably all those at once, right? It isn't any just one of them. Like, it's all at the same time in this one little teeny ball of human. And it's in those profound moments that we reclaim that childlike sense of wonder that I don't know, maybe we lose a little bit between the ages of 7 and 9. Other friends shared times when they experienced profound wonder, pulling a sled of firewood across the silent, frozen lake in the Boundary Waters, staring up at the stars to realize just how small you are, the cliffs of Sedona, the glory of catching your first muskie. These are all moments of wonder that other folks shared. And these moments of wonder are described often throughout the Bible. Like, we aren't inventing this, all right? This is a theme in human history from the beginning. In Exodus 3, Moses encounters God's very self in a burning bush. And God says, "Take off your sandals, for the place on which you're standing is holy ground." Take off your sandals, because I don't know how else to respond to this moment of total wonder. The Bible often tells of the first followers of Jesus who performed signs and wonders, right? These evidential acts of miracles so that people looking on would know that they're telling the truth and be filled with wonder at who this God is that these people are talking about. And then there's Psalm 8, the psalm we heard just a little while ago. The Psalms are ancient songs written for religious worship. And in Psalm number 8, it says this: "When I consider your heavens," addressing God, "the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is mankind that you are mindful of them? Human beings that you care for them. And yet you have made them a little lower than the angels and crowned them with glory and honor." And there's this mystery of the idea of wonder hidden in this psalm too. Think about this for a second. I think this idea is contained in this psalm. Think about this for a second. All of creation rides through the galaxy on the same big ball of rock and water. Everything you have ever seen or ever will see is on this big sphere. But taken in the whole of the galaxy, it's quite small. All of creation looks up at the same night sky. All of creation feels the same warmth of the same sun. But with all of that taken into account, we humans are the only ones who can contemplate it. We're the only ones who don't take that sun for granted, hopefully. We're the only ones who don't take this earth for granted if we're doing it right. We're the only ones who can marvel at it. And I think that's the glory and honor that this song from Psalm chapter 8 is describing. It's not that we're better or superior to the rest of creation, but that we can see it for the wonder that it is. We can look at the vast unknown of space with joy and openness and even go there, right? Crazy. We can stare into the ocean's dark abyss with joy and openness and explore to understand our world. We can look into the eyes of someone we love, knowing that the complexity of their personality will always be at least a little bit mystery. And we can hold that mystery with joy and openness instead of fear. Are you following me on this wonder thing? It's a great big blob of curiosity, and it's not something that we're going to nail down. It's not as clear as the things you're learning, for those who've just been back to school. It's, there's no study guide for wonder. It's something that we enter into as a practice to open up our hearts to a big, mysterious world. But life in this world often crushes our sense of wonder too. We hear about the next tragic shooting, and we feel like all our wondering about how to end gun violence has just gotten us nowhere. We hear about church leaders who abuse their power, who abuse children, and we think that maybe all of our wondering about God has led to this dark place. There are wars, there are hurting people, there's death and loss and poverty, and we can feel like this isn't a world full of wonder at all. We can feel like it's just a crappy ride through one heartbreak after another, and then you die. This is how some people really feel about the life that they live. And if that's how you feel about your life, some of us in this room probably feel that way about life. If that's how you feel about this world, you aren't alone. I think we all feel that way at one point or another. And in this broken world that's so full of sadness and heartbreak, it's easy to feel as though our moments of wonderment are the exception, right? It can feel like, oh, I had that moment where, man, I understood beauty, but then I went back to work and, you know. Yeah, that's in the transcript. It's just. But that isn't the case at all. When we are enraptured by wonder, when we pause regularly to marvel at the time and place that we have been given to live this life, we are holding on to the very essence of life itself. We are moving into what it means to be humans, the only ones who are able to do that at all. When we're caught up in waves of tragedy and heartache that wash over us now and then, we get lost. We could get lost in the headlines that make it look like all hope is lost. And in those moments, we aren't facing down reality itself. We're getting lost in the weeds. We're getting tangled up in the problems. Those moments of death and frustration and loss, those things too, even those are part of the grand divine story that is leading this whole world toward hope and healing and beauty. And how do we hold this tragedy and this beauty together without exploding? Wonder. By practicing wonder. When we wonder, it isn't a denial of the harsh realities of this world. Our wonder actually puts those realities in context. That injustice across the world that you heard about, that sounds so sad and too big to handle. All right, think of that one, because there's a lot of them. Think of the big injustice that your heart breaks for. It sounds too big to handle, but if we have a foundation of wonder in our lives, we realize that in the scope of this universe, even a refugee crisis is a small thing. Even climate change isn't too big a problem to take on. People who are full of wonder can throw themselves at the biggest problems in their communities and in their world with joy and openness. And when we put our hands to that kind of meaningful work, we make the world more wonderful. When we are captured by a sense of wonder and put our hands to meaningful work, we make the world more wonderful. We take the wonder that has so captured us and we infuse it into the places of hurt and darkness where wonder can be hard to find. So I want to encourage you today. I want to encourage you to wonder. I want to encourage you to lean into that vast unknown with a posture of joy and openness. And I have two ways that you can do that that I'd like to share with you today. All right? So two approaches to getting a little bit more wonder in your life. And the first one is to ask questions. For many of us, there comes a time when we stop asking questions. We're afraid of looking dumb. We're We don't want to put ourselves out there as someone who doesn't already have it all together. And if you think that you're the only one who doesn't already have it all together, well, that's dumb. Because we're all figuring it out. The reality is that all of us have questions. Whether it's about how the world works or whether it's about the source behind the world, God and the forces that hold this whole thing together. I sat down with someone just this week, and they peppered me with questions about God and the Bible and how it all fits together. And I gave my perspective, and they gave me theirs. And we didn't end our conversation with, oh, well, I'm glad that we've got it all figured out, and we can just close the book on wonder. We just wondered together. And I'd love to do that with you, with any of you here. That's literally one of my favorite things to do. And if you don't want to wonder with me, wonder with a friend. Wonder with your kids, because they're better at it than you are. Another practice, and ask questions. Get curious about something. Because the more you learn, the more you realize how little you know, right? Anyone who's taken that deep dive into one subject knows that. And it's in that space where we understand just how little we understand that we find wonder. If we can hold it with that joy and that openness, we find a wonder there. And there's another practice that you can do. So first, ask questions. And the second one is practice silence. There's this whole branch of Christianity that doesn't get a lot of publicity. It's called mysticism. I think they don't get the publicity because they're too busy being silent. The idea of mysticism is that any true experience of God, a true meeting with the divine, will always leave us speechless. It's too big for us to enunciate in words. Kind of like that experience of childbirth is indescribable. But that's the word we use to describe all the words that we're really feeling inside, right? So we can't describe God. We can't contain the holy in words. And so when we embrace silence, we take time out of the din of life and we quiet ourselves. And that's when God has a chance to speak. And then we don't take that moment of silence and then we go write a book about it. We let the silence be its own thing. One ancient mystic, there's an ancient mystic named St. John of the Cross. He was born in Spain in 1542, so that was a while ago, and he spent his life studying and writing about God. He is a scholar of the church. And yet, in all of his learning, one of his key conclusions was this: God cannot be known, only loved. God cannot be known, only loved. Now, he wasn't saying that we can't know anything about God. There's lots of things we can know about God, but he is saying that we can't know everything about God. We can't know God like we can know the way to get from here to home. Like that's something you can know inside and out. You can learn it and show it to someone else in its entirety. But God isn't like that, because God's too vast. We can't ever know God like the back of our hand. But it is in this God who goes beyond description that we find love beyond description. And we can offer love to God without any kind of veil of mystery or separation. We can love God with that same full force that we wish we could know God. And it's this wonder, it's that realization of how vast God is. That wonder leads us to love. And so an experience of God will also lead to silence. And sometimes an experience of silence will lead us to God. And maybe when we wonder our way through some of those big questions that we want to ask, the only appropriate response is silence. The mystics know that. Ultimately, all of our answers are going to fall short. that God, by definition, is beyond our grasp. We can't nail God down to fit into just one description. And yet, God is everywhere. Impossible to find, and yet impossible not to see. And I wonder at that. I step back and I experience wonder. So this week, your challenge is to take some time. Here's your homework. Take some time to wrestle with some of those big, hard questions that you've been thinking about. Do it out loud. Don't just Google it. All right? Wonder about something that's mysterious to you. And you can also spend 5, 10, 15 minutes in silence, just you and your thoughts, and discover what deep depths are within your soul. And even if your life isn't wonderful right now, all right, not all of our lives are wonderful, take a step into wonder. Because it's when we take that posture of wonder toward the world that we can face the challenges of life with open hands and joyful expectation. Pray with me. God, we thank you for the love that we experience from you, even though we can't understand it. We thank you for the gift of life, even though we'll never really see it for the gift it truly is. We thank you for community, for family, for hope, for truth that rings deep inside of our souls, even though they're all things that are just too big to grasp. And it's in those deep, deep truths that we discover you, even before and in spite of our understanding. And so we ask that you would stir within us a desire to lean into that wonder, to lean into all of life with joy and openness, so that we can offer it to this world, that we have the power to make more wonderful. Amen.